Today I'm going to talk to you about something that took me way too long to learn. I have grown up with the saying, always in my head, that you can never be overdressed or overeducated. But I'm going to talk to you today about what that really means and how it's impacted my life and how you can make sure that it doesn't impact yours the same way. The idea, like I said, you can never be overdressed or overeducated. But here's the thing, people are going to judge you either way for these things. You can put on a nice outfit, something that makes you feel really confident, powerful, well put together, and somebody's going to ask you, why are you so dressed up? Where are you going? Who are you trying to impress? Nowhere is it just, oh, you look nice. It's always judgment. And when you say, I just want to look nice, people always assume there must be some other reason. If you talk about books you're reading, a course you're taking, a business strategy you're implementing, they might look at you like you're showing off. If you use a word somebody doesn't know, not to impress them, but just because it's the right word for the situation and it feels good to say it, suddenly you're trying too hard or you're trying to be above them. You see, people are going to judge you for the strangest things in life. And it's not because there's anything wrong with you, but it's because your growth makes them uncomfortable with their stagnation. And for years and years, I played small because of it. I downplayed the way I wanted to dress. I dumbed down my language. I avoided talking about my business, my goals, my education, all so I could fit into a mold of the people around me. And all that did was shrink myself. It dimmed my light and it put me in a cage. But here's what I realized. I wasn't protecting them. I was abandoning myself, and I am done with that. Today, I want to talk about what it means to stop shrinking yourself, to stop apologizing for being too much, and to stop playing other people's games. Because the truth is, you are not too much. You just are around people who can't handle your growth, and it's time to change that. So let's dive into this. So here's what happens when you start leveling up. You start dressing better, taking care of yourself differently, putting effort into your appearance, and people notice. And not in the way you'd expect. Instead of celebrating you, they question you. Why are you so dressed up? What's the occasion? Are you just going to the grocery store looking like that? Or you start pursuing new and further education, reading more books, taking courses, getting more degrees, learning new skills, investing in coaches. And instead of being curious, they're skeptical. Why are you reading that? You're always studying something. Are you really going to spend that kind of money on something like this? Or they give off the assumption, oh, you must think you're better than somebody or everyone else. Or you start having deeper conversations or wanting to. You want to talk about ideas and strategies, philosophy and growth, but the people around you just want to talk about football and the weather and drinking on the weekends. And you realize you guys aren't speaking the same language. You aren't having the same quality of conversations. And God forbid you start having a strong vocabulary and using words that they don't understand. And what people say, why do you have to use such big words? Can't you dumb it down? You're being too intense. That's too much. Can't we just have normal conversations? But here's what I want you to understand. This is not about you. This is about them. Because when you start growing, you start evolving. And when you start showing up differently, it becomes a mirror. You become a mirror. And mirrors make people uncomfortable because your decisions to dress well remind them that they've stopped trying and their standards are too low. Your pursuit of education reminds them that they've stagnated and they've stopped learning. Your ambition reminds them that they've settled. And instead of being inspired by you, which is what they should be, they will pull back away from you. And it's not because they're bad people, but it's because your growth highlights their lack of it. And that makes people uncomfortable. So they'll judge you, they'll question you, they're gonna make you feel like you're the problem. But you're not, you're just outgrowing them. And that's part of life. But it puts you in a trap of playing small to make others comfortable. And for years, I fell into this trap. I was in environments, social circles, family dynamics, and even work settings where I felt like I had to shrink. I love getting dressed up. I love putting thought into what I wear. I love feeling confident in my appearance and in my own skin. But I found myself dressing down, wearing the same clothes everybody else was and not caring so much about how I presented my appearance. And it wasn't because it was what I wanted to wear, but it was because I didn't want to stand out and make other people feel like I was being too much or they were too little. I didn't want to make anybody uncomfortable. On the other side, I love learning. I love reading. I love having intellectually challenging conversations about my business, psychology, philosophy, faith, personal growth. But I found myself dumbing down my language in the conversations I was having and having a lot of small talk so that I was avoiding certain topics or pretending I was comfortable having that small talk, when in reality, it honestly made me want to crawl out of my skin. I hate having small talk. I want deep, challenging conversations. But I didn't want people to think that I was showing off, or I thought I was better than them, or I was too much. I didn't want to be judged. And I had goals, big goals. I was building a business. I was walking away from a 6-figure corporate job to pursue something that mattered to me, trying to build $1 million business. But I found myself downplaying it, not talking about my wins, not talking about my vision. And I remember one specific instance where somebody asked me, "What's your goal with your business? What are you trying to do?" And I said, "I'm trying to make $1 million this year." And their response was, "Why?" And I knew everything I needed to know in that situation. I knew that I needed to remove myself from that friend group. I needed to find better people to be around that encouraged my growth. I don't want somebody to ask me why. I want the kind of people in my life that say, "How are you going to do it? What can I do to support you? What do you need to learn to get there? Are you hiring a coach?" I don't want somebody to question whether or not the goal makes sense. If it feels unrealistic in that circle, then I'm in the wrong circle. So I was playing small, and I dimmed my light so other people wouldn't feel threatened by it. And I put myself in a box so they would feel comfortable. And you know what happened? I became miserable. I stopped striving for the big goals because I wasn't being myself. I was playing a character, a watered down, sanitized, acceptable version of who I actually am. And I was doing it for people that didn't even appreciate it. They didn't even realize I was doing it. But here's the truth. No matter how small you make yourself, it's never small enough for the people who want you to stay stagnant. So they're going to judge you. They're going to question you. They're going to find something to criticize. They always will. So why are you doing it? Why are you abandoning yourself to make other people feel comfortable? You were put on this earth to grow, not to shrink. You were put here to evolve, to become the fullest, most powerful version of yourself. And if it makes other people uncomfortable, that's their problem, not yours. So what's the shift? You have to get around the right people. And here's what changed everything for us. We moved to Arizona. We wiped the slate clean. We decided we were going to be intentional about our friend groups, the people we spent time with, and the people we let into our energy and our space. So I gave myself permission to get around the right kind of people who didn't need me to shrink, people who celebrated my growth instead of questioning it, people who wanted to have deep, challenging intellectual conversations, people who were also dressing well, pursuing education, coaching, building businesses, leveling up, raising families. And suddenly, I didn't feel like too much. I had people around me whose goals were bigger and scarier than mine, and all of a sudden the conversations we were having didn't seem so strange. And I felt like I was exactly enough. I could talk about the books I was reading, the coaches I was paying for, the business wins I was having, without somebody accusing me of bragging. I could dress up on a random Tuesday without someone asking, "Where are you going? What are you doing?" I could use words I wanted to use without someone assuming I was trying too hard, because I was finally around the kind of people who understood me, people who respected my ambition, who valued my growth, who saw dressing well as a form of self-respect, not vanity. Same with exercise. Once I got around the right kind of people, everybody's fit, everybody's healthy, everybody cares about themselves, and it's a totally different dynamic than being surrounded by a bunch of people that all they want to do is eat and drink and sit on the couch and watch football. And here's what I learned. The people who judge you for being overdressed, they're underdressed for their own life. The people who judge you for being overeducated, too articulate, too ambitious, they've stopped growing. And they want you to stop too, because your evolution, like I said, is a mirror and they don't want to see it. But that's not your responsibility. Your responsibility is to keep growing, keep evolving, keep becoming, and to surround yourself with people who cheer you on, not tear you down. Because here's what you need to understand. Dressing well is a form of self-respect. So is taking care of your body and your health and exercising. Let me talk about something specific for a second, specifically dress and exercise, because I think it gets misunderstood. People think it's about vanity. It's about impressing others. It's about trying to prove something. But here's what it really is. It is a form of self-respect. It's a reflection of how you feel about yourself. And when you put the effort into your appearance, you're saying, "I'm worth the effort, I respect myself, I do hard things, and I care about how I show up in this world for myself, for my family, for my children, and for my future." And that matters, because how you show up externally affects how you feel internally, which affects your performance as well. So when I go to the gym and I get dressed, when I put on an outfit that makes me feel confident, when I live in a body that is powerful and well put together, I get to show up differently. I carry myself differently. I speak differently. I think differently. I'm confident. I feel like the version of myself that I'm becoming. But when I dress down and I throw on leggings and a hoodie or a big t-shirt and I'm trying not to stand out, I feel small. I feel invisible and I feel like I'm hiding. And I'm done hiding. I don't need to hide. I love me. So I dress how I want every day, not for anyone else, but for me, because I respect myself. And I think the way I present myself matters. And if someone asks, why are you so dressed up? Then I can smile and say, because I respect myself, because that's it. That's the answer. You don't owe anybody an explanation. You don't need a special occasion. You don't need permission. You get to get dressed however you want. And anyone who has a problem with that is projecting their own discomfort onto you. And on the other hand, education is power. I'm not just talking about formal education, degrees, certificates, diplomas. I'm talking about the pursuit of knowledge and the commitment to never stopping learning, reading books, taking courses, listening to podcasts, studying your craft, developing new skills, challenging your thinking, having hard conversations, and investing in coaching. That's education. And it's one of the most powerful things you can do for yourself because knowledge is power. It gives you options. It gives you confidence. It gives you the ability to navigate the world with clarity and competence. But here's what happens when you pursue education. People start to feel threatened. They'll accuse you of thinking you're better than everyone. They'll say you're too intellectual. They'll tell you you're always too busy studying like it's a bad thing. And here's what I want you to understand. Again, you are not responsible for other people's insecurities. If your pursuit of knowledge makes someone uncomfortable, that's their issue, not yours. Because the reality is you can never be overeducated. You can never know too much. You can never be too articulate. You can never be too well read. And the only people who will judge you for that are the people who have stopped growing. And you don't need their approval. Proverbs 4:7 says, "The beginning of wisdom is this: God values wisdom. He values knowledge. He values the pursuit of understanding. And so should you. So keep learning, keep growing, keep challenging yourself. And if people judge you for it, let that be their problem. The hard truth is when you start leveling up in your life, you start dressing better, learning more, building more, becoming more, you become a living example of what's possible. And that threatens people who have settled because your growth forces them to confront their stagnation. Your decision to pursue education reminds them that they haven't read a book in years. Your decision to dress well reminds them that they stopped caring about their appearance. Your decision to build a business reminds them that they're stuck in a job they hate. Your decision to have deep conversations reminds them that they've stopped thinking critically. And instead of being inspired by you, they resent you. They'll accuse you of showing off, of being too much, of thinking you're better than them. But here's what they're really saying. You are making me uncomfortable because you're doing what I wish I had the courage to do. And again, that's not your fault. You're not responsible for other people's feelings about their own lives. You're responsible for your life, your growth, your evolution. And if that makes them uncomfortable, let them be uncomfortable because their discomfort is not a reason for you to shrink. So here's what I want you to do. I want you to stop shrinking. I want you to stop dimming your light, stop playing small, and making other people comfortable. I want you to stop apologizing for being too much, too educated, too ambitious, too well-dressed, or too articulate. I want you to stop apologizing for caring about your health and your future and your family. You are not too much. You are just around people who are too small and they can't handle your growth. And it's time to change that. You need to dress how you want, speak how you want, pursue education you want, the conversations, the relationships, all of it, the faithfulness. And if people ask, why are you doing all of this? Just tell them, because I respect myself and I know what I'm capable of. And if people want to judge you for that, you need to keep going, keep growing, and keep becoming, because you were never designed to stay small. You were designed to expand and evolve and step fully into the version of yourself that God created you to be. And the people who can't handle that, they are not your people. So you need to choose your circle carefully and stop apologizing for outgrowing the old one.